Hey everyone, thanks for stopping by. My name is Manya and I talk about all things WW Purple Plan. Before I get into it today though, if you like this content, please do me a favor, subscribe and like this video. It really helps me know what you like to hear from me. So today, I want to tell you about my top 5 tips for being successful on the WW Purple Plan. Now, purple is not like the other 2 plans, which are green and blue. Real quick recap. The green plan is kind of the traditional WW plan. You get a lot of points per day. They're based on your size, your weight, your gender, a whole bunch of different factors. And then you have a pretty limited list of what we call 0-point foods. Basically, if you're on green, you can eat as many vegetables as you want and you can eat as much fruit as you want. Everything else, you gotta weigh it, track it, stay within your points. Blue has a similar format to green, but you get slightly fewer points and you have a bigger 0-point list. So the things that were 0 on green are still 0 on blue, fruits and vegetables, but then you get a few more things, quite a few more things that are 0 points. And then purple, which is the plan I follow, you get a very limited number of points. The lowest amount of points you can have per day is 16, and that's how many I have. But your 0-point list is massive. It includes things like oatmeal, potatoes, popcorn, lean meats, eggs. There's a lot of them, trust me. So in theory, you should eat more 0-point foods so you don't need as many daily points. But this is where people get into trouble. They switch to the purple plan and they think they can follow it just like they did blue and green. And then they freak out because they don't have as many points per day. So here are my top 5 tips for succeeding on the purple plan. All right, coming in at number 5, don't be afraid of carbs. You guys, this is serious. Refined carbs, not good. White bread, white pasta, not good. Whole carbs, so good. Potatoes, whole wheat pasta, brown rice. I eat so much of all of those and I still lose weight every single week. Well, almost every single week. We'll talk about that in another video. There is no reason to be afraid of carbs. It doesn't raise your blood sugar. It doesn't gain weight. Whole carbs are good for you. I eat an enormous amount of potatoes. In fact, I buy a 15-pound bag of russet potatoes every 2 weeks from Costco. And that's on top of all the sweet potatoes, the fingerling potatoes, the Yukon Gold potatoes. I love potatoes. Starch is good for you. Now, I'm not a doctor, I don't claim to be, but I'd like to recommend a book for you. You should read The Starch Solution by Dr. John McDougall, and he'll explain it all to you. Now, coming in at tip number 4. I know you don't want to hear it, but you have to food prep. You can get away with not food prepping when you're on green and blue, especially if you use a lot of your points for packaged food. Things like frozen Smart One meals or bagged chips that you portion out or are portioned out for you. It's pretty easy to eat a lot of processed foods and stay within your daily points on the blue and the green plan, not on purple. Because you have such a limited number of points, if you try to rely on things like Built Bars or pretzels or cereal, you're gonna eat up your points really quickly and have nothing left. So the best thing to do is to have all those healthy whole foods ready for you to eat. Right over there, as soon as I'm done, is a giant bowl of grapes and fat-free Greek yogurt, all for 0 points. And right here, I have my matcha tea, unsweetened, also 0 points. The more 0-point foods you can have at hand, ready to eat, the better off you're gonna be. Okay, tip number 3. Once you embrace those 0-point foods and you eat them like crazy, you might actually find, and I know this is hard to believe now, but you might actually find that you are under eating your points. If you eat all 0-point foods, you might have a hard time eating your 16, 18, 20 points, whatever you get every single day. This is your opportunity to get in some healthy fats. There have been times when almost all 16 points have been on avocados. I eat a giant bowl of popcorn every single night, and I sprinkle PB2 ground peanuts on top to get in some healthy fats. So you have to use those points. It's really best if you do. Weight Watchers gives them to you for caloric intake. So you need to eat them as much as you can. You don't have to eat all of them, but eat as many as you can. And then you realize that you feel better and more satiated when you have some healthy fat in your diet, even if it's just a teaspoon of olive oil on top of your salad. Okay, tip number 2. You should not be hungry. I'm just gonna let that sit there. Because every other time that I have dieted, before discovering the WW Purple, Simply Filling, and Core plans, I was always hungry. It was always about food deprivation, eating less to lose more. But here's the thing with all those 0-point foods, they all have a high caloric density, meaning you can eat more of them for the same number of calories of a lower calorie density food. You've seen those images, right? Like a handful of nuts is X calories and a plate full of popcorn is the same number. This is all about being able to eat until you're satisfied. That is the beautiful thing about the Purple Plan, is that because you're reliant on high caloric density foods, you can eat as much as you need so that you are never hungry and you will still lose weight. I know it's scary. I know you might not believe me. If you're on one of the other WW plans, you might just try Purple for a month and see if you eat until you're not hungry, you probably will still lose weight. Give it a shot. Okay, and my number 1 tip for being successful on the Purple Plan is you have to embrace this as a lifestyle change. You cannot take the blue plan or the green plan and just layer the Purple Plan on top. If you've been eating a lot of those sugar-free foods, packaged foods, processed foods, you're just gonna eat through your points almost immediately, halfway through the day probably, and then you'll be hungry. Take that list of 0-point foods, put it up on your refrigerator and eat from it. And don't just eat those fruits and vegetables. You will be hungry. Eat the pasta, eat the rice, eat the potatoes. I promise you, if you're not binging, if you're not gorging, if you're not eating until you feel sick, you're just eating until you feel satisfied, you will lose weight. But it is different and it's different than we're told to eat. It's different than we think we're supposed to eat. But if it didn't work, WW wouldn't have a plan for it. So trust the plan and trust in the process. All right, those are my top 5 tips for being successful on WW Purple Plan. Let me know what you think. What are your tips? Like, subscribe, stick with me. I've got a lot more content coming.